It is Mock Draft Tuesday because I forgot Monday was a day. Otherwise, Mock Draft Monday would have been perfect with no football on Monday night. We do have one game coming up, though. I don't know if you guys have heard. Seahawks and Patriots. I've picked against the Patriots, for a while now. And we'll see if eventually it will finally be right in some capacity. But regardless of that, for whatever reason, the last mock draft had the Patriots picking in the incorrect position. Talk to PFF about it for messing that up, and then talk to me about it again because I, for whatever reason, did not notice, didn't think about it by the time we got down there. But this is the post-Senior Bowl, which of course is the college all-star game. There are a couple. Shout out to the East-West Shrine game and director Eric Alco as well. They do a great job over there, but the Senior Bowl has currently the tendency to get some of the bigger prospects, and a lot of those guys boosted their stock at the Senior Bowl, being very good in the one-on-ones or the team portion or even the game. So this is a mock draft that will reflect that and shine some love onto the guys that played well. Will they end up being first-round picks? Well, some might sneak in. Others that end up in this first round may not by the time April comes around. But we have a long way to go before that, as we're going to rip things off with Fernando Mendoza at number 1. It's just what we think is going to happen at this point. It seems like it's a no-brainer. The Raiders likely going to be hiring Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak to be their next head coach. Mendoza is an interesting fit into that system, but I think that's going to be a fun pairing. And the Raiders have a long way to go. So expect that they find some way to try and improve the offensive line. I think if you're going to draft Mendoza at number 1, you also need to find a way to get him some playmakers. You like the running back for the future, love the tight end. Where are the receivers? It's tough to say right now. I think that Trey Tucker is a nice player, maybe underrated even. I think that Dante Thornton has potential as a role player, maybe a fourth receiver, a field stretcher, a deep threat, but not exactly the complete package at the position right now. We'll see if he can develop. We'll see. But you need more. So drafting Mendoza here at number 1 seems like a foregone conclusion, but it's the everything else where the Raiders need a ton of help, and maybe we'll help them with a multi-round mock draft here in the near future. Number 2 with the Jets, we're going to go Arvell Reese. I've been a huge fan of his for a while. The play kind of dropped off a little bit in terms of production down the second half of the year. Obviously not a big college football playoff run for the Buckeyes, but Reese is still an incredible athlete with incredible play strength and has flashed off the edge. So if you're going for the high upside play, it would absolutely be Arvell Reese. He can end up being a stud for the Jets. So there are a lot of options at 2. They could take the first receiver off the board. They could take, really, I guess, any of the edge rushers, we're going to call Reese, Bain, and Bailey. Those are options. That's kind of it, it feels like. Like, where could they reasonably go other than Reese, Bain, or Bailey, or one of the receivers? It's hard to say anybody. Maybe there's an argument to be made for Jeremiah Love, like we talked about before, just because he's so good. But it's highly unlikely the Jets take Jeremiah Love. I think they're trying to work something out with Breece Hall. Not sure if that's going to happen, but it's pretty much going to come down to one of these 3 edge rushers, I would imagine. And today it's going to be Arvell Reese. Huge fan. Obviously been my top player for a while now, as I've said, but I wanted to see more in the second half of the season. Didn't exactly see that. But this draft just doesn't really have a ton of the blue chip players. Arvell Reese is close enough, and there's an argument again to be made that he's the best player in this draft. So makes sense here at number 2 for the Jets as we get to the Cardinals at 3. I'm just constantly going to be Spencer Fano here probably. Like, there are some things I like to do, but it just makes sense. Fano is a really good athlete, good mover, good in pass protection. And that's tough to find. It's certainly extremely valuable. And for the Cardinals, who are lacking that big-time right tackle to protect their quarterback, which they also are lacking, Fano makes a ton of sense. Paris Johnson Jr. at left tackle, Fano at right tackle for the future. That's going to be a pretty good setup for Arizona as we get to the Titans at 4. And before we get to number 4, I will say that this video is sponsored by Underdog. This is the last week to kind of do anything for the NFL season. Obviously, we have the big game coming up, whatever I'm allowed to call it, with the copywriting or whatever. If you guys are looking to get to Underdog, use code Bengal. They're running a ton of great promos all the time. I use it personally. And remember to play responsibly. That's definitely a big part of it. This is what I'm rocking for the big game. Drake May, lower 1.5 passing touchdowns. I just don't think it happens against a great Seattle defense. Could very easily, but I'm picking against it. Ramondre Stevenson, not to record a rushing touchdown. Seattle is incredible against running backs in terms of not allowing touchdowns. And I don't know that Ramondre Stevenson will get one as a result. I'm just playing the numbers here. Seattle has the best or second best run defense in the league in terms of stopping running back rushing touchdowns. Ramondre Stevenson plays running back on the opposing team, so I've got to be picking against him. And then I think Rashid Shaheed will get a rushing attempt. I think Seattle's going to try to get a little bit creative. Shaheed's often been involved in the running game, at least in terms of getting an attempt, sometimes 2 per game. So we'll see what happens with that, but those are my 3 picks. You could potentially add a boost builder as well. This is an interesting one because you can get 10% now. Then the next one becomes 25%. So you could put $5 on it and then get 25% on the next one and make it 10 if you wanted to and get a huge boost on top of that. So these are my 3 picks. Remember to use code Bengal on Underdog for the big game. Play responsibly, please. That link is down in the description. Helps me and hopefully helps you as well with these 3 picks. So thank you, and let's get back to the video. Titans at 4. It's really down, in my opinion, between 2 players, Bain or Bailey. Who do you prefer? Ruben Bain is definitely more powerful, whereas Bailey has the speed. They both have, things that you don't love that, lack the completeness of the player. I think Bain is a bit more complete because of how great he is against the run. It's just, okay, short arms, do you worry about that? Does he have enough bend to be a consistent winner off the edge? He's just disruptive. He's powerful. I like him as a prospect. And then David Bailey, there are some concerns as well. Doesn't play the run so well. Doesn't exactly have the thick lower half that you look for among defensive linemen. And doesn't really have a fully developed pass rush plan. If his speed doesn't work, which it often does, by the way, but if it doesn't really have a bunch of counters that he can show off and a bunch of go-to second or tertiary options. So how will all of this play up in the NFL? Those are the question marks. We don't know how these guys are going to develop. Just takes the right coach. I think maybe the Titans will prefer the speed and overall athleticism of David Bailey. Bain's great. This is a toss-up. It's often Bain for me. He's even off the board at 2 a lot of the time for me. But he's going to be available at least through pick number 5 in this scenario, where the Titans just opt for David Bailey this time around. Maybe it'll be different next time. And then we get to my favorite team at number 5. Also, coincidentally, my least favorite team, because I hate them based off the product they've put on the field over the last decade. But it is the New York Giants. I've been all over the map here because there's a lot that the Giants need, even though they do have quite a bit of talent in some areas. I think here are the options. Ruben Bain, maybe if they want to play him on the interior, he'd be a good fit for a 3-4. Ruben Bain, put him at 5 tech. You have Dexter Lawrence. You have Brian Burns, obviously, off the edge. Kayvon Thibodeau off the edge. Abdul Carter off the edge. Nice little 3-man rotation. Darius Alexander hopefully playing into that other 3 or 5 tech. But Bain could potentially work in there. I think that's an outside shot. Don't really think that's a strong possibility. Caleb Downs gets a little bit stronger. Giants do have a need in the secondary. They want to bring in culture players. John Harbaugh obviously saw what Kyle Hamilton was able to do to that Baltimore defense. He was really one of their lone, shining stars, right? And that's definitely a possibility, an upgrade over Tyler Nubin. You could take one of the first receivers, Tyson Tate or Lemon. Those are really the top 3 that would be in play here at 5. Sonny Styles, Linebackers, a big need for the Giants. Micah McFadden is ticketed for free agency. Bobby Okereke is not the player that he was when he arrived to the Giants. Francis Maui-Noa, which I think I did last week to improve the Giants' offensive line. Potential fit at guard or a Jermaine Illuminor replacement at right tackle. And then you have one of the top corners, Jermod McCoy, Mansour Delane. Both good options. I think McCoy probably is a little bit more talented than Delane, who I do like quite a bit as a prospect. We just didn't see him play in 2025 due to injury. Never a good sign. But today, I'm going to go Sonny Styles. Don't think I've had this fit for the Giants yet, and it's such a big need. The only thing holding Sonny Styles back is the fact that he does not play a premier position. He's not one of these hybrid edge rusher linebackers like Arvell Reese. Not that the Giants need that. They have Thibodeau, Carter, and Burns. Styles is a great, as good of an off-ball linebacker prospect as you were going to find. That's just not a premium position in the NFL. We have seen linebackers go this high before. Devin White was in this range to Tampa. I think he actually was the 5th pick and helped them win a Super Bowl, despite how he was really only a good blitzer for a while in there. And that was it. Sonny Styles is a complete linebacker. Complete. Great in coverage. He has sideline-to-sideline range. He has no fear and the strength to take on blockers on the inside. He fits the run well. And he's a really, really sound tackler. These are a lot of things where the Giants really, really need help. Or more like these are a lot of things the Giants could afford to improve at. These are areas of need for the Giants, no question. And that will leave the Browns in a fairly good position to just go Francis Maui-Noa at number 6. One of the best, if not the best, offensive linemen in the draft. Could potentially play guard if tackle doesn't work out, but I think he can stick at tackle. Now, here's the thing, is he is a right tackle, and Jack Conklin is a right tackle. Is Jack Conklin a player that you're going to have on the team locked down at right tackle for the next 4 or 5 seasons? I don't think so. He's a free agent following the 2027 season. Keep in mind, 2026 is coming up next. So you got 1 year, maybe 2 years where Francis Maui-Noa could make a play to start at guard and then kick out to right tackle. Or maybe you think Francis Maui-Noa is an upgrade, and it may be. Unfortunately, Conklin's been a player who's been often injured as well. So Maui-Noa just pictured to be the best offensive lineman available for me here at number 6 for Cleveland. At number 7, I'm going to go Ruben Bain to the Washington Commanders. Definite need at edge. I think Bain would be a good fit for what Dan Quinn is looking for off the edge. Historically, you look at the build of the defensive ends that he has utilized. Bain absolutely has the size. I think would do quite well. And it's just... not saying that the Commanders should not have traded Montez Sweat, because I don't think that's even necessarily a question. Just that they need to improve their pass rush one way or another, especially when you're facing a team like the Eagles multiple times per year with the great tackles that they have in Mailata and obviously the Hall of Famer to be Lane Johnson. And you have some young, exciting quarterbacks potentially. You got to get after Jackson Dart. Got to get after Dak Prescott, of course, even though their offensive line's fairly good as well, missing maybe that right tackle spot. So you do have to plan for the teams that you're going to play and see multiple times per year, but at the end of the day, everybody needs to improve their pass rush. It never really can be good enough. So Bain is a good fit here to Washington. At number 8, Jeremiah Love's a very popular fit to the Saints right now. I don't see it yet. Maybe that will change, because I do think Love will be a top 10 pick. The spot that keeps coming up for me is Kansas City, but all it takes is Kansas City not taking Jeremiah Love, and then where does he go? Not really expected to be a pick for the Bengals at 10 or the Dolphins at 11. Maybe the Cowboys would, maybe they wouldn't. The only real running back spots, I would say, I guess you're going to consider the Saints. Chiefs, Cowboys, I would say the Jets would definitely consider it at 16 if it came up. Minnesota, obviously. But it's tough to say where he would actually go. I think he's going to end up being a top 10 player. He's one of the top 3 most talented players in this draft, probably. But I'm not going to pick him here to the Saints. I think that they have more pressing needs. You still have Alvin Kamara. I get a plan after him, but you can take one of the first receivers off the board here. Running back just may not be a super valuable position for the Saints front office and Mickey Loomis. And I don't know, I can't remember the last time they spent a top pick on a running back. Maybe it was Alvin Kamara in the 3rd round back in, I think it was 2017. So I'm going to go Carnell Tate here. Long history of taking those Ohio State wide receivers. No more Sean Payton, but why stop the trend? Tate, I think, has a really good chance to be the first receiver off the board. He's got the size. He's got the ability to win down the field. He is a solid route runner for his size, an advanced route runner even for his size. The ball skills are fantastic. This is who you're looking to complement a Chris Olave with. Tyler Shuck, you just got maybe your new favorite target in Carnell Tate. And then I'm sure the surprise of the year, Chiefs fans, I'm going Jeremiah Love. He's too good to get by the Chiefs. It may end up happening in real life. Maybe he doesn't even get to the Chiefs, but he's too good to not be a Chief in my mock drafts. If he's going to get to 9, he's going to be a Chief pretty much every time. He's one of the top players in the draft. The only reason why he falls here, if you want to call it a fall, still being a top 10 pick, is because of the position he plays. Not every team's going to consider a running back very high in the draft. The Chiefs could very easily decide that this is a shot worth taking on Jordan Tyson, or of course Mekhi Lemon. Maybe even the tight end Kenyon Sadiq goes this high. But tight end range variance is crazy. I really don't know where Kenyon Sadiq's going to end up. Top 10 is a possibility. The teen seems most likely, but I could also see the back half of the first round. We've seen tight ends fall before, and we'll have to see what happens. He's probably one of the more interesting fits for me in the draft. But Jeremiah Love here, it's the explosive home run hitting ability. You just can't find a player like this every day, and the Chiefs could absolutely use a younger running back, especially one with as much juice as Jeremiah Love has. That's what they lack right now. Bengals at 10, going to go Mansour Delane. He's right there with McCoy for me. It's just Delane we saw a great 2025 from. Jermod McCoy we didn't even see a snap. Obviously, the Bengals have done well with LSU players before, and Mansour Delane is the next one here. Defensive side of the ball. I'm not going to say the cornerback is the biggest need for Cincinnati. They really have needs all over the defense. I think Delane would be a starter immediately. Cam Taylor-Britt's been a bit banged up, and even so, he is upgradable. I like the potential of Dax Hill. I don't think linebacker's perfect. The defensive line in general is not perfect, both interior and with the edge players. But Delane might just be the best player available here for Cincinnati. Obviously, Downs is going to be somebody that sticks out here, but they might prefer to take the boundary, more valuable position over the box safety and Caleb Downs, as good as he is. Downs, again, like Sadiq, maybe not to the same level, but like Sadiq, has a lot of variance because he's such a good player, but is a box safety. And the league doesn't necessarily value safety at all, or nickel, let alone someone that we've really seen thrive in the box and not a whole lot of other places. He's looked okay over the top, but his ability to trigger downhill is definitely the best. And that's where you want to utilize him, in the box where he can read and react and fire downhill, similarly to a Kyle Hamilton. Where does a player like that go? Certainly somewhere in this range. I think it starts for the Giants at 5. That's the absolute ceiling in my opinion. And then the floor is probably somewhere around 20. And I think, again, the teens will be the sweet spot. But the Bengals decide to go with the first corner off the board here from a familiar school with LSU's Mansour Delane. Had a great season transferring from Virginia Tech. Really, really nice player. At number 11, the Miami Dolphins going to go with Jermod McCoy. Cornerback has long been a position of need for the Dolphins, and this just happens to fit really well with maybe best player available and position of need. Just a perfect marriage. McCoy could be a top 5 player in the class based on his 2024 tape. We just didn't see him in 2025, but should be fully healthy for the offseason and the regular season, of course, for the NFL. So if you're drafting him, it's not, I wonder when McCoy's going to hit the field. He should be very, very ready to go. Also, not the first time the Dolphins have taken a Tennessee defensive back in round one. Jason Allen, back in maybe 2005, 2006. I don't remember him being very good, though. Cowboys at 12. I mean, they're able to just stick and pick and get one of the top players in the draft, Caleb Downs. It often works out for the Cowboys in my mock drafts. Somebody good just falls to them. Either it's, a Jeremiah Love, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, one of the best edge rushers. I mean, the actual strengths of this class really work with what the Cowboys' needs happen to be. Talking about running back, maybe wide receiver, but we expect George Pickens to stay a Cowboy. Edge, linebacker, corner, safety, right tackle even. So there's so many different ways the Cowboys could draft. Got multiple first-round picks. They're in pretty good position here. They just stick and pick and go with arguably the best player in the draft. I don't necessarily share that same viewpoint, but I think Downs is a really talented player. Again, does his best work in the box. Really instinctive. Apparently a huge team leader, big culture setter. Going to be a lot of teams that like Caleb Downs, even before the on-field stuff, which also happens to be great. Rams at 13. I think I got some pushback for this last time with Casey Concepcion, but this is a bit better. The receivers are sticking on the board just a little bit here, which is not entirely surprising. I'm going to go Mekhi Lemon. If you look at the receiver room for the Rams over the next couple of years, Devontae Adams is not locked in long-term. I like Jordan Whittington, hook 'em horns, of course. I don't know that the Rams want him to be wide receiver too. Mekhi Lemon would be a huge weapon in the slot right now. I feel like he fits the requirements of what the Rams look for at receiver. He is tough. He catches the football consistently in traffic. He can go up and get it. He's an awesome player. Awesome player. And if you look at, a mid-30s now, Devontae Adams, who is not under contract long-term, Puka Nacua, and then you have like Jordan Whittington, Xavier Smith, Kanata Mumfield, Tutu Atwell. Like, receiver is a need for the Rams. You're not drafting for next game. You're drafting for the next 4 or 5 seasons that you're going to have a first-round pick. Mekhi Lemon definitely fits a need for the Rams, fixes a huge potential problem coming up. And even with Devontae Adams, can you rely on him to play 17 games a year? I don't know. It didn't happen this season. And is he going to get healthier as he gets older? Is he going to get better as he gets older? Receivers a need. The top couple of corners are off the board. The top tackles are off the board. And I don't even know that they need to do that anyway with how well Warren McClendon had played and Alaric Jackson. The Rams are the toughest team to mock draft for because they're so talented. So it's tough to say which direction they will ultimately go. And then the Ravens at 14. I'm going to go Caleb Banks. This is the first big Senior Bowl standout. Banks didn't really play a lot in 2025 due to injury, but came back, looked pretty good at the end of the year. Powerful hands. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. This is a big guy that can move and can get in the backfield in a hurry. We've talked about Nnamdi Madubuike potentially never playing again. He put out a cryptic tweet saying that maybe he got good news. Still, is that a player you can necessarily rely on? I'm not going to say that it is. Great player. Even so, a lot of these fronts run 3 interior defensive linemen. Even if Madubuike comes back, maybe it's in a limited capacity at first. Maybe it's not. We're not going to speculate. But to say that interior defensive line is just a need for this Baltimore team, got to be able to pressure the quarterback from the interior. Caleb Banks helps you do that. Again, powerful hands. Punching back interior offensive lineman. Also has the speed to beat them. Fun player. And really showed his ability at the Senior Bowl. This is a player that's going to be a difference maker and will end up going fairly high in the draft. Could be at 14, could be at 28, could be at 50 even potentially. We don't know, but Banks has the potential to be the first interior defensive lineman off the board with the Peter Woods question marks and some of the other unknown quantities on the interior, like can Caden McDonald really get to the QB? Can Lee Hunter keep the damn pad level down? But it's a good interior defensive line class. I mean, Darrell Jackson's a player I like quite a bit. There are some fun players. We've talked about it a lot. it's going to be hard to go wrong because there are a lot of really talented interior defensive linemen with good size, good athleticism, great length, especially in the case of Jackson Jr., and a lot of really good nose tackles in this class. Like, where's Big Citrus going to go? I'm excited to find out, but he's a day 2 player, in my opinion, so we'll see when a team decides to pull the trigger. But it's always fun because there are, like, clear, it seems like, day 2 prospects, so second or third round, that end up sneaking in around 1, and we're like, whoa, how did that happen? Or, you know what, I thought that player had a chance to go top 40 or top 50, and they went top 30. So we'll see who that ends up being. Bucks at 15, a lot of time between now and the draft, obviously. Going to go Cassius Howell. It's been tough to find a landing spot for him, but Tampa's got the defensive structure that could really make Cassius Howell shine. He's undersized, but he is as explosive as you're going to see. He is a freak athlete, really bendy, really good outside move. He wins with speed consistently. The outside speed rush sets up the quick inside move so well. We've talked about the ghost move with him on the channel before. So he's got a decent bag. I don't know if he's going to be a big power guy. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up against the run at the NFL level. But can Cassius Howell develop into, your Hassan Reddick, speaking of Tampa? Maybe he can. And is that worth a top 15 pick? I think the Bucks might find it as so. Because he's here at number 15, and they need to improve their pass rush. Just kind of a good fit in general. Jets at 16. Gonna go Jordan Tyson. There's a chance he goes much higher or potentially even lower than this. Really talented player. I think he's got all of the talent to be a star receiver on a team. It's just an inability to stay on the field for him that's been hurting. No pun intended. And that could hurt his stock. Because if it's a collarbone injury, it's a hamstring injury, it's a torn ACL. It's not just one thing. Like, I think a torn ACL, guys just come back from that all the time now. But consistent nagging injuries and different injuries, maybe that means a player is in fact injury prone. But the talent is undeniable. He would be an awesome addition to this Jets receiving core that already features a stud in Garrett Wilson and hopefully a stud to be in Longhorn legend Adonai Mitchell. Tyson's a really good player, and the Jets just need more of those. I think the draft always seems to work out well for the Jets, too, and that happens to be because they have 2 picks in the first half of the first round, but oftentimes it's Arvell Reese or, Reuben Bain, David Bailey, even potentially, one of the top receivers, or one of the top receivers falls to them at 16, or one of the top corners. The world is the Jets' oyster. We'll see what they do with these draft picks. Lions at 17. We're going to go Keldrick Falk because I think the Lions could certainly afford to improve their pass rush. I don't know that Falk is the biggest answer to that, but they historically like the big edge rushers. Everyone talks about, the overwhelming potential of Keldrick Falk. I don't know if I'm ever going to see it with him as a pass rusher because everyone says this guy's ceiling is limitless. He's 6'6", 285, and then that's kind of where the conversation stops. Is he good enough to play on the interior? Is he good enough to play on the outside? Is he just a tweener of massive proportions because he's so big, so long, obviously with the arm length? But will he ever be able to use his hands? Does he have the explosiveness and the burst? There are some questions with him as a pass rusher. His ability to defend the run and set the edge, I think, is unquestioned. He's just so big and so strong in that area. But this is the type of edge the Lions have historically liked. So Falk, I think, is a good fit here with the organization. And there are some that think this is a top 5 or 10 player in the entire draft. So that wasn't exactly talking Falk up a lot because he does have things you just cannot teach. We'll see how he ends up testing. The size is, enormous. Teams really value that and the arm length. And his ability to defend the run's quite good. I think it makes him a really high floor player. But is he ever going to be like a double-digit sack guy? Maybe he doesn't need to be with Aiden Hutchinson on the other side. If he can just be a great run defender that can, collapse the pocket a little bit, that's valuable in its own right. As we get to the Vikings at 18, going to go Colton Hood, one of the better corners in this draft. Really good fit here for Minnesota. Hood is somebody that did play at the Senior Bowl, had his ups and downs, but overall the tape was exceptional in 2025. I think that's going to end up landing him inside the first round of the draft, and the Vikings could really use an upgrade at corner. Speaking of Senior Bowl standouts, kind of starting to get to a few of those, what about Clemson's TJ Parker? Was nearly unblockable at the Senior Bowl, especially showing off that long arm move. Clips were circulating on Twitter if you did not see the actual Senior Bowl coverage, but clips on Twitter is a really good place to see because you're getting an up-close and personal look at the one-on-ones and the different positional drills, and TJ Parker has the size, has the athleticism, had the production in 2024, not so much in 2025. It was a down year and the tape matched as well. Sometimes it doesn't because production can be fake one way or the other. Cleanup sacks, not necessarily impressive wins off the edge or from interior defensive linemen, can just end up getting you sacks. Maybe quarterback runs into you. These things can happen, and obviously it's so hard to get a sack. So if you get a few of those in a year, suddenly your number that was going to be 5 sacks turns into 8 or 9, and that starts to look a lot better. TJ Parker, I think, had like 11 sacks or so in 2024, only 5 in 2025. Production way down, but sometimes you can really be pressuring the quarterback. Maybe it's just he throws it away quickly. Maybe you miss the tackle. Obviously not great either, but there are a number of different variables. That wasn't necessarily the case for TJ Parker. He just didn't play all that well in 2025 based on where the expectations were, but of course comes to the Senior Bowl, dominates, and right back in the first round conversation. Gets to stay fairly local here. Clemson, South Carolina, up to Charlotte, North Carolina, playing for the Panthers, who need help off the edge. Linebacker in play as well, I would say. But Parker is the pick here, more valuable position, and a really good upside still. Cowboys at 20. They're never afraid to reach down the board for a player they like, and someone that was, again, great at the Senior Bowl. What about Mizzou's Zion Young? We talked about him a lot on this channel, especially at the start of mock draft season, because he is one of the few edge rushers in this class with legitimate 3-down potential. And what does that come down to? You got to have the size, you know, because if you're, 6'2", 230, you're going to have a pretty tough time defending the run. You're going to be a designated pass rusher type. That's why it's very difficult for me to get guys like R. Mason Thomas and Romello Height into the first round, where I think that Derek Moore might have some more interest. Another Senior Bowl standout, might I add. You look at Gabe, is it Jackass, unlikely. He's got the size to potentially be a 3 or 4 down player, right? If the team's going for it. Akeem Mesidor has the size to be a 3 down player. These things are especially valuable. I like Joshua Josephs a lot as a pass rusher. He doesn't necessarily have the same size, and teams draft accordingly. Tyreek Sapp, another player that could be quite fun. Son of Warren Sapp, had a decent Senior Bowl. Zion Young was awesome at the Senior Bowl. He has the tape in 2025. I don't care about the production. He was the best edge rusher for Mizzou last year. Yes, even better than now transferred Damon Wilson, although Mizzou fans were not happy. I don't know what I said about Damon Wilson. They hate it. Let me find it, actually. This isn't really related to the mock draft so much, but this is a good time. I've never had a chance to rant about this. Quick sidebar. Said I had no idea Damon Wilson transferred to Mizzou. He was a former highly coveted 4 or 5-star edge, quietly having an awesome season, albeit against not-so-great competition. This was September 30th. His production to that point came against Central Arkansas, Louisiana Lafayette, South Carolina, which is not impressive as an SEC school. They have one of the worst offensive lines I've ever seen, and UMass. What's the problem here with pointing out the competition? Did they play anyone good? No, they did not. It's important to put these into context. And we, of course, Mizzou. What? Are you kidding me? And yeah, I'm talking about this months later because I happen to remember it. I'm literally complimenting Damon Wilson here, and these people are like, well, you didn't compliment him exactly the way I wanted you to. Like, I don't get why people were so upset. And they were so upset. Now he transferred to Miami. Good. You know what? Good. Anyway, Zion Young was great, albeit against not-so-great competition. No, he's had a really a really good season, and he's continued it into the offseason. I'm excited to see where he ends up going in the draft. Maybe 20 seems a bit early, but of the available edge rushers, you can make a strong argument Zion Young is the best one here. Akeem Mesidor is very good. Had a great season, is a polished pass rusher. He should be. He's going to be a 25-year-old rookie. As I've talked about, I have a hard time getting that into round one, even if the talent is there. I think a team maybe at the back end that says, hey, we're looking to have somebody that can really help us win now. Our window is open. Where can we get that help? And in terms of teams looking for an upgraded pass rush, New England, maybe. I could even say Seattle could be in that conversation, even though it's pretty good. The Niners, of course, even though they've invested there recently. Buffalo, obviously. Like, there are teams where Mesidor is a fit, but for a team here like the Cowboys, they might prefer taking a shot at the younger guy with maybe even more potential. Pittsburgh at 21. How about the big-bodied Denzel Boston? They've got DK Metcalf. How about add even more size at the position? But this is really more of a jump ball guy than DK happens to be. I look at the Steelers, and they're in such a weird position because you could absolutely make an argument for Ty Simpson here, even if I don't think he's quite a first-round talent. He plays the most valuable position. Those guys get pushed up all the time. You could make an argument for that QB position. Like, we think, collectively it seems, from public perception that I've seen, that I've gleaned, it seems like we think the Steelers should just hit the hard reset button, be bad, and then try to be better long-term instead of sustaining 8 to 10 wins a year. Which is good, but if you're not good enough to beat any of the top teams, what does it really matter? They say any given Sunday, but sometimes it's just not the case. It just isn't. I look at the interior defensive line, and Cam Hayward's like 50. That's like slightly hyperbole. It's really not that crazy. He's like 38. Dude, he's so old. Cam Hayward is closer to 40 than... maybe Cam Hayward's maybe closer to 50 than, I don't know, some of these prospects are to Cam Hayward's current age. It's kind of interesting. So, could look to replace him long-term. Defensive back always seems to be a need for this team. Improving the O-line, I'm looking at guard. I'm potentially looking at tackle as well. Like, there are a lot of different ways the Steelers could go here. Denzel Boston's not necessarily a bad one. Chargers at 22. Vega Ioane has just not been drafted so far, so he's the pick. Arguably the best offensive lineman in this class, happens to play guard. Tackle, obviously, the more valuable position. Ioane is great. I mean, it's tough to really point out too many flaws in his game. And for the Chargers, I beg that they upgrade the offensive line. I beg. Protect Justin Herbert. You can get an MVP-level quarterback. Protect him, please. He didn't play great in the playoff game. Obviously, he was individually bad. He carried the team for an entire regular season without their top 2 tackles and the worst interior O-line in the league, which became the worst offensive line overall. Pick a team. They're not as bad. The Raiders, somehow not as bad as this Chargers offensive line were, although they gave him a good run for their money. Eagles at 23. Avion Terrell's like the perfect pick for them. It really is. He can play in the slot. He can play on the boundary as well. He gives them the flexibility that they like in the secondary. He's a little bit undersized, but is a good athlete overall. Is very instinctive, knows for the football. And again, this is a good fit for Philadelphia. Browns at 24. How about Casey Concepcion? Top available wide receiver. Field stretcher, explosive as hell, great with the football in his hands, can beat press on the outside. It's just the hands are maybe slightly a question. That's a problem at wide receiver, and that's why he's not, a surefire top 10 pick. But with the athleticism, the big playmaking ability, he's going to end up being a first rounder, I think, especially given that receiver is such a valuable position, and there's really a drop off following Concepcion, probably, I would say, because Chris Bell has been hurt or was hurt seriously and is going to be, and it will not likely be ready for the start of 2026. And then you have a bunch of is this guy worth the first round pick, as talented as they may be. There are some question marks, but the Browns take Concepcion. It's pretty good value here, in my opinion. I think he could go as high as the early teens. Bears at 25. How about Lee Hunter? Talking about Senior Bowl domination. Lee Hunter had his moments for sure. He's got very good size, 330 pounds, but for a bigger guy, as you'd expect, sometimes the pad level gets a bit high, which can lead him to being bullied a little bit. But when the pad level stays low, he's able to play with leverage. He's a great run defender and has absolutely flashed as a pass rusher. And that's the type of thing that gets you drafted high, maybe even higher than this. So we have Lee Hunter right now at 25. Maybe in a little while, we're talking about him as a top 20 pick, top 15 even maybe. Because interior defensive line is valuable, especially when you can get after the quarterback. It's rare to find someone that can really get to the QB on the interior. That's why those guys are getting paid so much nowadays. Bills at 26. They desperately need receiver. There are some good options off the edge. Potentially could go with a defensive back. I really want to get Emmanuel McNeil-Warren into the first round. I really do. I just know how the league values safety, and it's been tough to do so. He's got great size, great athleticism, would be a good fit here in Buffalo, but I'm going to say that they are wide receiver desperate. Keon Coleman looks like a mistake at this point. But how about go up and get a big-bodied receiver that can win vertically? Malachi Fields, another great Senior Bowl performer, showed that he could get down the field and win vertically, stacking defensive backs, and then finishing plays with ball skills. And if you watched Notre Dame, if you've seen the Malachi Fields tape even, you know he's got ball skills. There's no question about that. That's what the Bills are looking for. Somebody that can work well with Josh Allen's skill set of being able to extend plays and the arm talent to launch the ball and accurately downfield, but launch the ball downfield. Fields is a very fun player. Is 26 high for him? Yeah, it is probably. But after the start of this offseason period and a very good season for the Fighting Irish, maybe Fields gets bumped up into the back end of round one. I don't think it's impossible. We'll see. I think Dane Brugler said he thinks he's going to be the first Senior Bowl receiver drafted for sure. There were a number of standouts at the position. We've talked about some of the smaller school guys like Skylar Bell a little bit this year, but there were also some like Ted Hurst. I've tweeted about a little bit, but we really haven't talked about him on the channel. Ted Hurst has very good size, can run, and has ball skills for days. This is a player that's probably going to end up getting drafted on day 2 or maybe early day 3 because he's got rare athleticism and size and ball skills. A team's going to find something to do with him, even if it's not as an every down receiver. As a vertical threat, he's got value. Tyron Montgomery, the hands were a little bit questionable on the final day of the Senior Bowl or two, but he balled out. John Carroll, Division III. This was the best player on the field for the start of the Senior Bowl practices. I mean, he was able to get open consistently. He was able to go up and get the football. Really, really fun. I have not seen the tape from D3 John Carroll. I want to make that clear. But of the guys at the Senior Bowl, Montgomery stood out for certain. Played himself into the early day 3 conversation, maybe. We'll see. It's a fun receiver class, as they always seem to be nowadays. 49ers at 27, going to go Monroe Freeling, tackle from Georgia. Why Freeling here over a Caden Proctor or over Caleb Lomu, over Blake Miller, right? Well, the athleticism and the size is just so rare. 6'7", 315, that can move the way he does. And when I say that, a lot of it is about footwork. And Freeling's footwork is really good. So you put him in a situation where he's not forced to start right away, can sit behind Trent Williams, one of the greatest tackles this league has ever seen. You might have a pretty good starting left tackle here in a couple of years. Could potentially fill in at right tackle. But the athleticism is awesome. And teams will take the shot on a player like that in the back end of round 1, no question. Caleb Lomu is a good pass protector. That could get him into the first round easily. Run blocking is a bit more suspect. Caden Proctor did not really have a great 2025, but again, the size and athleticism is pretty ridiculous for someone that's 6'7", 360 or 370. See what happens with that. But I'm going to tell you right now, he's not going to be in this first-round mock draft. I want to highlight some other guys. As we get to the Texans at 28, Peter Woods is here. And I still think his potential is awesome. He might end up falling a little bit. Some of the interior defensive linemen that we've talked about already have kind of pushed themselves up a little bit. And, you know, his 2025, like we talked about for TJ Parker, just wasn't all that good. And it's tough when you look at a guy that you could make an argument has got worse every single year. What's that trend looking like? It's not great. But he is a really fun player. He's explosive. He's violent at times. He's just got to be more consistent. Obviously, you'd like to see the Texans go out, improve their offensive line. But the best player available here is a defensive lineman. And you continue to build into that strength. They need to get younger on the interior anyway. And now you add Peter Woods, give him some one-on-ones when you're already talking about Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter on the same line. It'd be a nightmare for opposing offensive lines. How do you scheme against that? Can't double everybody. Are you going to max protect every play? It's like you can't. So I think this is his best player available, and his potential is awesome. And put him into this environment as opposed to what you saw at Clemson in 2025, you might just have a superstar young talent. I still think his potential is about as good as anybody in this draft. Rams at 29. I'll tell you what happened is originally I had Ty Simpson here. That's what I originally had. I'm going to change it because I don't know that I'm putting Ty Simpson into the first round of every mock draft. This was my initial thinking, initial explanation was that the Rams have 2 first-round picks. A quarterback has fallen to you. If you can develop Ty Simpson for a year or two behind Matthew Stafford, you might just end up having a pretty solid starter. How many times will you have the chance to draft one if you are the team that the Rams expect to be, which is a perennial winner, and someone that's picking in the bottom, 5 picks of the first round? It's going to be tough. So if Ty Simpson's here, you have multiple first-round picks, maybe. But cornerback is such a big need, and Brandon Cisse is available. That's where I'm going to go. Cornerback needs to be upgraded desperately. They had like a great week or two out of Emmanuel Forbes, but he's not good enough. Quentin Lake is a nickel. And then you have, former South Carolina State standout, Jacoby Durant. South Carolina State, right? I think he was. It's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. Brandon Cisse is a great athlete. You're going to see him at the Combine. I don't know why he wouldn't test. He's going to run fast. Probably going to jump high. This is a 4.3 type of guy. So he should test quite well. And that is something that could propel him into round 1 when the tape was already pretty good. Broncos at 30. How is Kenyon Sadiq available? Bang. Turn it in. Easy. Move tight end. Evan Ingram. Kenyon Sadiq. Similar types of play style. Sadiq's a decent blocker against second and third level players. But his ability as a receiver is what's going to get him drafted probably inside round 1. Really good athlete. Really good ball skills. Weapon for a Sean Payton offense. Patriots at 31. Akeem Mesidor makes sense, but what about Senior Bowl standout Max Ihenacho? I believe it's pronounced Ihenacho and not Iheanacho. Iheanacho was my initial instinct. Remember Duke Iheanacho, spelled a bit differently. But apparently this is quite a common name with the Igbo people of Nigeria, and it's pronounced chore like it rhymes with door. Need confirmation there from Max himself, but I'm going to say Iheanacho for now. And this is it's a potential play. This is a guy that really didn't start playing football until very recently. He is a great athlete with great size. His play has improved every year. but he's very inexperienced. This is a potential play where you're hoping for somebody great in the future. Right tackle, he would insert at right tackle for New England. You're hoping that Will Campbell can be that guy on the other side. Had his ups and downs this year. There's no question. Doesn't mean he can't rebound from those, or maybe he doesn't. Maybe he sucks. That's also a possibility. These type of things happen. But you're not sure. You could go Akeem Mesidor here, upgrade the pass rush. Like, you've got some options. You really do. But this is someone who is really good at the Senior Bowl. Is super tough to get around because of his unbelievable size. And it's tough to find guys with this overall size and length that can move the way he does. Teams might gravitate toward that. I think he ends up going on day 2 for sure. But he could sneak into the back end of round 1. We've seen stranger things. And that will leave the Seattle Seahawks, potential Super Bowl champions, at number 32. We'll know for sure next time a mock draft is out. What do you do here? Because you're so talented. Your defense is great, but you have a ton of free agents in the secondary. This is the time to shine. I've wanted to make it work. It's finally going to work. Give me Emmanuel McNeil-Warren to the Seahawks at number 32. They've got some potential free agents that make this a possibility. Seattle means war. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, you can bring a military-style attack to opposing offenses. I don't know what I'm talking about, but Emmanuel McNeil-Warren is like 6'2", 210 or so, really athletic, great ball skills. Does that sound familiar? It sounds like Nick Eamon-Warry from a year ago, but McNeil-Warren is really more of a safety, where I think that the strength of Nick Eamon-Warry's game was playing that big nickel or overhang role. He's played a lot in the slot this year. Nick Eamon-Warry goes to Nick Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. There's something there. I haven't found it yet, but, bring back this Legion of Boom style defense. McNeil-Warren packs a punch as a hitter, by the way. This is someone that you can visibly see on tape that receivers are afraid of him. Going over the middle of the field, I would too, probably, right? But that's what they do. They hear the footsteps of the big safety from Toledo. Another Toledo defensive back drafted in the first round here in the past few years. This is a fun fit. They could use corner. They could use interior offensive line. Could you even consider a receiver here? Maybe not with who's available. All these things. Guard, center, edge, maybe even linebacker, corner. But give me the safety from Toledo, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, to finish out this mock draft. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.